What if the one person you trusted most ruined your life, and the system helped him do it? This is the story of Claire Montgomery, a woman betrayed, silenced, and buried behind bars for a crime she didn't commit. But from the ashes of injustice, she rose. What she built inside prison walls didn't just free her, it sparked a rebellion that gave voice to the voiceless. If you think prison stories are all about punishment, wait until you hear this one. Because sometimes, the strongest women are forged in fire. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more stories like this. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more stories like this. Claire Montgomery sat stiffly in the cold courtroom, her fingers clenched tightly in her lap. Her lawyer, Mr. Dawson, gave her a quick, forced smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. The room was silent, heavy with tension. Cameras clicked softly in the background. The gallery was full of reporters and strangers who had come to see the cold-blooded heiress fall. Claire wore a navy blue suit, simple pearl earrings, and her hair tied back in a neat bun. She looked calm on the outside, but inside her chest, her heart pounded like a war drum. She glanced across the room. Her husband, ex-husband, Marcus sat in the back, cool and comfortable, dressed in a designer suit. He didn't even look at her. His new girlfriend, a much younger woman, held his hand and smirked. Claire's eyes burned. Not with tears. With rage. How did it come to this? The judge, a grey-haired man with tired eyes, cleared his throat. Claire Montgomery, you have been found guilty of 14 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. Do you have anything to say before I give your sentence? Claire stood slowly, legs trembling. Your Honor, I am innocent. I did not steal any money. I didn't cover up any crime. I was used, lied to, by the person I loved the most. There was a murmur in the gallery. Please, she continued, her voice cracking, I trusted my husband. I didn't know what he was doing. I lost everything, my career, my reputation, and my daughter. The judge nodded slightly, then lowered his gaze. You may have been misled, Ms. Montgomery, but the evidence presented to this court shows your signature on the documents, your voice in the recordings, and your emails authorizing the transactions. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in Crestwood Women's Correctional Facility. No parole for the first 8 years. Gasps filled the courtroom. Claire stood frozen. The sound of the gavel striking the bench echoed like thunder in her ears. Her lawyer placed a hand on her arm, but she pulled away. She turned to the gallery. Everyone was staring. Everyone but Marcus. He looked down at his phone, smirking. She was led away in handcuffs, her head held high, her tears falling silently. The prison transport van rattled as it drove through dark streets. Claire sat between two women in orange jumpsuits, both with tattoos and hard eyes. One of them, a tall, rough-looking woman with short hair, sneered at her. You that rich lady who stole millions, she asked. Claire didn't answer. The woman chuckled. Guess money can't buy freedom. Claire turned her head to the window. She saw nothing but night. But her mind was loud with memories. Her daughter's laughter. Her wedding day. The day she found out about the fake accounts Marcus had created in her name. That was the day her world ended. Crestwood Women's Correctional Facility stood like a monster under a steel-grey sky. High walls topped with barbed wire, guards with rifles, barking dogs. Claire stepped out of the van in shackles. The cold air slapped her face. A guard barked, "Move it!" She stumbled slightly but kept walking. Inside, the walls smelled of bleach and something sour. Harsh lights buzzed above. The intake process was brutal. "Strip," said the female officer without even looking at her. Claire blinked. "Excuse me." "Take off your clothes. Now." Hands shaking, Claire removed her clothes. She stood there, naked and shivering. The officer searched her roughly. Claire flinched. "Welcome to Crestwood," the officer muttered with a smirk. They gave her a thin orange jumpsuit and worn-out shoes. No bra. No dignity. Next was the mugshot. Click, click. She stared blankly into the camera. Then came the walk to her cell block. As she passed rows of cells, inmates whistled, laughed, or glared. Look at the princess. She won't last a week. Bet she's got soft skin. Claire kept her eyes down. She was placed in cell 43B, a small metal cage with a metal toilet, a bunk bed, and a cracked window. Her cellmate was already there, lying on the top bunk. You snore, I stab, the woman said flatly. Claire didn't answer. She crawled onto the bottom bunk and curled up. That night, she didn't sleep. She listened to the sounds of women crying, screaming, laughing, and the distant echoes of violence. The next morning, Claire was taken to the yard. It was a large open space surrounded by high walls. Women smoked, played basketball, lifted weights, or just stared. Claire sat on a bench alone. A group of inmates approached. You the lawyer lady? One asked. Claire nodded slightly. Bet you think you better than us. I don't, Claire whispered. One of them grabbed her collar. You will learn not to act like royalty in here. Back off, a strong voice said. The women turned. A tall woman with a shaved head, covered in tattoos, walked over. Her eyes were sharp and cold. She's under my watch. That a problem? The group backed away, muttering. Claire looked up. Why did you help me? The woman shrugged. You look like someone who has no idea how to survive here. I don't. Good answer, the woman said. Name's Lena. Stick with me. You might make it. Claire. Lena sat beside her. What are you in for? Claire hesitated. Something I didn't do. Lena snorted. We all say that. But don't worry. This place will teach you the truth about yourself. Claire frowned. What truth? Lena looked at her with something close to pity. That you're stronger than you think. But first, you got a break. Claire stared ahead, heart heavy, eyes fixed on nothing. Somewhere deep inside, something cracked. But maybe, just maybe, something else was beginning to grow. On Claire's fourth day in Crestwood, the routine began to settle in. Wake up at 5 a.m. to the shrill buzz of the morning alarm, count check by the guards, breakfast that tasted like cardboard, followed by assigned duties and an hour in the yard. But nothing felt normal about this place. Every movement, every stare, felt like a threat. She kept close to Lena, not because she wanted to, but because she had no choice. Lena was feared. Not just by the inmates, but by the guards too. They called her Queen Lena behind her back. And from what Claire saw, Lena had earned it. Women moved out of her way when she walked. Even the guards spoke to her with strange respect. Rule number 1 in here, Lena said as they walked the yard together that morning, never owe anyone. Favors come with chains. Claire nodded. What about you? I owe you. Lena looked at her, her expression unreadable. You'll pay me back one day. Not with money. With something real. Claire didn't ask what she meant. That day, Claire was assigned laundry duty. The heat of the industrial dryers made the room feel like an oven. The women there barely spoke, but Claire noticed a small act of kindness. An older woman passed her a dry cloth when she burned her hand. It was the first warmth she'd felt in days. Later, in the cafeteria, Claire watched how Lena operated. A guard whispered something in Lena's ear and handed her an apple. A group of younger inmates waited to hand her their desserts. A woman sitting alone shifted nervously when Lena passed. Why do they treat you like that? Claire asked. Lena smirked. Fear. Influence. I solve problems. Keep fights down. Sometimes I start them. Depends on what's needed. You run this place. I survive this place, Lena corrected. There's a difference. That night, in their cell, Claire couldn't sleep. Why me, Lena? She whispered from her bunk. Why help me? There was a long pause. I had a sister once, Lena said quietly. Soft. Sweet. Trusting. Like you. She didn't last long in a world full of wolves. Claire turned to face the dark ceiling. Did something happen to her? She was taken, Lena replied. The system failed her. Like it failed you. Like it failed me. You think you're in hell now? Hell started long before we got here. Claire felt her throat tighten. There were so many things she didn't understand about Lena, but one thing was clear. Behind that hard armor was a heart that had once been broken too. A week later, Claire stood by herself in the yard. Lena had been called in for questioning about a fight that broke out in another block. Claire tried to stay invisible, but a group of women began circling her. Well, one said, her voice cold. Without your queen around, you're just a scared little bunny. I'm not looking for trouble, Claire said. Trouble's looking for you. One shoved her. Claire stumbled but didn't fall. Another tried to grab her jumpsuit. Then a voice rang out like a gunshot. Touch her again, and you'll spend a week in the infirmary. Lena. She stormed over, face like thunder. The group backed off without another word. Claire exhaled. Later that night, Lena sat with her at dinner. You need to learn to fight, Lena said. I'm not a fighter, Claire whispered. You will be. Or you'll be eaten alive. Claire looked down at her tray. Her hands trembled. I can't. I'm not like you. No, Lena said. You're not. But you're stronger than you think. You just haven't met that version of yourself yet. Claire didn't believe her. Not yet. But some part of her hoped she was right. 3 weeks into her sentence, Claire found a rhythm. It was brutal and exhausting, but she was adapting. The first bruise came after a mop bucket spilled and she didn't apologize fast enough. The first kindness came when a woman in the kitchen slipped her an extra slice of bread. But the first real connection happened one quiet afternoon in the library. The library was Claire's escape. Books had always been her refuge. The smell of old paper, the silence, the neat rows, they reminded her of home. Of Ava, her daughter, reading curled up on the couch. She sat alone, reading a worn copy of Maya Angelou's poems, when Lena sat down across from her. You like that stuff? Lena asked. Claire nodded. It's the only thing in here that feels real. Lena looked thoughtful. I used to read too. Before life got too loud. They sat in silence for a moment. Claire looked up. You never talk about your past. Why did you end up here? Lena didn't speak for a long time. Then, finally, she said, my mom had this boyfriend. Big guy. Charmer on the outside. Monster behind closed doors. He beat her. Beat me. One night, he went too far. I stabbed him. 19 times. Claire's breath caught. I'm sorry. Don't be, Lena said. I'd do it again. There was no pride in her voice. Just pain. Claire whispered, my daughter died 2 years ago. Car accident. I was supposed to pick her up from dance practice. I was running late. Just 10 minutes. A drunk driver hit her friend's mom's car. I never saw her again. Lena looked at her. So that's your scar? Claire nodded. The biggest one. Lena leaned back. Funny, how the world only sees the crime, not the story behind it. They see me as greedy. A fraud. They see me as a killer. Which, I guess, I am. Claire shook her head. You were defending yourself. Lena smiled, the first real smile Claire had seen. Funny hearing that from a lawyer. I wasn't always a good one. I ignored signs. Looked away. I let Marcus fool me. I let the system use me as a shield. You're not that person anymore, Lena said. Am I someone better? You're someone in the making. That night, Claire sat on her bunk and thought about scars. Not the ones on her skin. The ones in her heart. The ones she'd hidden for years under makeup, courtrooms, and fake smiles. Maybe Lena was right. Maybe she could become someone new. Not just a survivor, but someone powerful. Someone compassionate. Someone who could rise from the ashes. Claire was learning that the walls of Crestwood didn't just hold pain and punishment, they held secrets. It started with a whisper. She had just finished cleaning the mess hall floor when an inmate named Tara approached her in the hallway. "You teach law, don't you?" Tara asked, her voice low. Claire blinked. "I was a lawyer. Before all this." Tara glanced around. "There's a group that meets in the laundry room every other Friday. We help each other. Quietly. We call it the Whisper Network." Claire frowned. "Help each other how?" "Legal help. Mental help. Emotional help," Tara said. "Some of us were railroaded. Some of us never had a voice." Claire hesitated, then nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Your mind. And your heart." That Friday, Claire followed Tara through the back corridors of the prison. They entered the laundry room after hours, when most inmates were already in their cells. A small circle of women sat on turned-over laundry bins. Lena was already there. "You brought her?" Lena asked Tara, raising an eyebrow. "She's ready," Tara replied. Claire sat down. "What is this, really?" A woman named Bea spoke up. "I've been in here 11 years for something my boyfriend did. No one believed me. Not the court. Not even my own family." Another woman added, "I'm transgender. I was assaulted in here. I reported it, and they locked me in solitary instead of helping." Claire's chest tightened. So many stories, so much pain. Lena looked at her. "You still think you're alone in this place?" Claire shook her head. "Not anymore." Tara handed her a folder filled with scribbled notes, letters, old court papers. "These are cases like yours. We've been keeping records, trying to find ways to reopen them. But we need someone who knows the law." Claire flipped through them, eyes wide. Some of these women, they were never given proper counsel. "Nope," Lena said. "Poor, black, brown, addicts, immigrants, all easy to blame." Claire looked up. "Let me help, please." Bea smiled faintly. "Then you're one of us now." That night, for the first time since her arrest, Claire felt useful again. She felt like herself, not the broken woman the world had labeled her, but the woman who once fought for justice. Only this time, she was fighting for the forgotten. Days turned into weeks, and Claire began teaching small legal lessons in the Whisper Network. They discussed appeals, wrongful convictions, and sentencing guidelines. The women listened, took notes, and cried. Even the hardened ones. One day, Izzy, a frightened 19-year-old who had just arrived, stumbled into their meeting. "I don't know what I'm doing," she sobbed. "I didn't even finish high school. They put me here for defending myself. I didn't know what to say in court. They didn't care." Claire walked over and hugged her. "You're not alone anymore." Later that night, Lena found Claire writing on scraps of paper in her bunk. "You're different now," Lena said. Claire looked up. "Different how?" "Like someone who finally remembered what she was born to do." Claire smiled, a small but real one. "Maybe prison didn't break me," she said. "Maybe it woke me up." It happened in the darkest corner of the prison. Claire had just finished tutoring Izzy on how to write a personal statement for her appeal. She was walking her back to her cell when a shadow moved behind them. A tall guard named Wallace stepped out from behind the laundry carts. "Where you two headed?" he asked, voice slurred. Izzy stiffened. "We're going back to the block, sir." Wallace leered. "You new girls always need extra supervision." Claire stepped in front of Izzy. "We're fine, Officer Wallace." He grabbed Claire's wrist roughly. "I wasn't talking to you, lawyer lady. Let us go, Claire said, keeping her voice calm. Wallace shoved her against the wall. You think just because you talk fancy, you run the place? Let her go. Izzy screamed. Suddenly, Lena appeared behind him like a storm. Her voice was ice. Touch her again, and I'll rip your spine out through your mouth. Wallace froze. Lena stepped between them, pushing him back with a firm hand to the chest. You wanna lose your badge over this? Go ahead, she said. But you'll lose more than that. Wallace stared at her for a moment, then backed off. You bitches think you're untouchable. Claire collapsed to the floor, shaking. Lena knelt beside her. Breathe. You're safe now. Claire clutched her arm. He was going to, I know, Lena whispered. But he won't. Not again. The next morning, Claire filed a complaint. And to her surprise, something shifted. Warden Price called her into the office. The warden looked annoyed but intrigued. You made quite a scene yesterday, Montgomery, she said. Claire sat up straight. One of your guards tried to assault me and a younger inmate. That should be the scene. Warden Price sighed. Do you have proof? I have a dozen witnesses. Witnesses in here mean little. Claire didn't blink. Unless they allowed. The warden leaned forward. Careful. You've already made enemies. Some of them wear uniforms. Claire stood. Then maybe it's time someone like me made some noise. That night, the Whisper Network held its biggest meeting yet. Over 20 inmates attended. We can't just survive here, Claire told them. We need to fight. With our minds. Our stories. Our truth. Lena stood beside her. They tried to silence us. But now we speak. B.A. raised her hand. What if we get punished? Then we take the punishment together, Claire said. No one stands alone again. They all nodded. Even the silent ones. 2 days later, Detective Sam Carter arrived at the prison requesting to see Claire. She was led to a small visitor room, hands trembling. Carter was tall, grey-haired, with kind but sharp eyes. I've been looking into your case, he said. Something about it stinks. Claire sat down slowly. You believe me? I believe your husband framed you, and I think I can prove it. But I need you to help me from the inside. Claire felt her heart skip. You want me to gather evidence? From here? Yes, Carter replied. Emails, letters, anything he sent you from prison. Anything you remember. Claire's fingers curled into fists. For the first time in months, she said, I feel like I have a weapon. Carter smiled. Then use it wisely. That night, Claire stood in her cell, staring out the cracked window. Lena looked up from her bunk. Everything okay? Claire nodded slowly. I think the tide is finally turning. Lena smirked. You ready to fight back, lawyer lady? Claire's voice was firm. I was born ready. I just forgot who I was. The next morning, the air in Crestwood felt different. It wasn't just the usual cold or the stench of bleach. It was tension. Quiet but electric. Like something big was about to happen. Claire sat in the library, surrounded by the members of the Whisper Network. Izzy, B.E.A., Tara, and even a few new faces had joined. A thin woman named Shauna, with faded green eyes and deep scars along her wrists, spoke nervously. I have a daughter. I haven't seen her in 7 years. They moved her into foster care when I got locked up. I've tried to reach out, but no one helps. They ignore my letters. Claire gently reached for her hand. We're going to change that. Tara leaned forward. How? Nobody listens to inmates. Claire opened a notebook she had been working on for weeks. They don't have to. But they will listen to the public. And to the law. She laid out a plan. Step 1. Gather testimonies. Real, personal stories, written in the inmate's own words. Step 2. Build a report and send it anonymously to every human rights organization, news station, and advocacy group in the state. Step 3. Make it impossible to ignore. We won't use our names, Claire said. Just our truth. BA shook her head. You'll get targeted. You'll get hurt. Maybe, Claire said softly, but they've already taken everything from me. I have nothing left to fear. Lena entered, arms folded. That's where you're wrong. You still have something to lose. Claire looked up. What? Hope, Lena said. And that's what they hate most. For the next 2 weeks, the women wrote. Late at night, under blankets, by flickering hallway light, they poured their pain onto paper. Stories of being wrongly accused, of abuse, of being forgotten. Claire read each one, her heart breaking a little more every night. One letter described a woman's miscarriage in solitary confinement. Another described being assaulted by a guard and punished with 3 weeks in isolation. Lena watched Claire slowly become someone else, sharper, more determined, but also more alive. You're changing, Lena said one night. Claire looked up. I'm becoming who I was supposed to be. Lena smiled faintly. Then don't stop now. One afternoon, Claire sat outside in the yard with Izzy when a guard approached. Not Wallace, another one, younger, with guilt in his eyes. I heard what you're doing, he said softly. My sister was locked up. She died in here. No one cared. Claire stared at him. She ODD, he said. They let her rot in her cell. If someone like you had been here back then. He handed Claire a folded paper and walked away. Inside it was a copy of an old inmate report, evidence of neglect that had been covered up. Claire's hands shook. This is it, she whispered to herself. This is how we start the fire. 3 nights later, Claire passed the final draft of the report to Lena. Inside it were 42 testimonies, 2 leaked documents, and a detailed account of prison abuses, all anonymous, all typed on smuggled paper, all packed into a thick envelope. I need one favor, Claire said to Lena. Lena raised a brow. Name it. There's a woman in laundry, Sandra. She works delivery to the outside vendors. I need her to slip this into one of the outgoing boxes. It'll reach my friend on the outside. Lena nodded slowly. You trust her? Claire nodded. With my life. Lena smirked. You're starting to think like a prisoner. That's good. Claire exhaled. No. I'm starting to think like a fighter. 3 days passed. Then 5. Then 7. Nothing. Claire waited every morning, heart in her throat. But there was no word from her friend. No letters. No news. Nothing. Until the 12th day. That morning, Claire was woken up by yelling in the hallway. A guard rushed into their cell, grabbed Claire roughly, and dragged her out of bed. Montgomery, he barked. You're wanted in the warden's office. Now. Lena jumped up from the top bunk. Don't touch her like that. The guard glared. Stay out of this, Lena. Claire was marched across the cold corridors of Crestwood. When she entered the warden's office, Warden Price sat behind her desk, arms folded, lips tight. On the desk sat a copy of the report. You leaked this, she said coldly. Claire didn't answer. Price slammed her hand on the desk. Don't play smart with me. I know it was you. Claire remained silent, her eyes steady. You just declared war on this facility. Claire took a step forward. I didn't declare war. I told the truth. Price's eyes narrowed. You know what I could do to you. Yes, Claire said. And that's why I'm not afraid anymore. Claire was thrown into solitary. The room was dark and cold. No bed, no blanket, no light for 12 hours at a time. Just 4 walls and her own thoughts. But she wasn't broken. She sang old songs under her breath. She counted every second. She pictured Ava's face. She reminded herself of every woman she had promised to fight for. And she waited. On the 5th day, a knock came at the door. The light flickered on, and the door opened. A guard stood there, followed by a man in a suit. It was Detective Carter. "Get up, Montgomery," he said. "We need to talk." Claire squinted at the light. "You read it?" "Yes." And so did half the state. He pulled out a folded newspaper. On the front page, voices from behind the walls, the women of Crestwood speak out. Claire stared at it, speechless. Carter continued. "Your friend did exactly what you asked. That package went to 6 organizations, 3 newspapers, and 1 state senator. The story exploded. Everyone wants to know who's behind it." Claire's voice trembled. "Are they coming after me?" "Some are," Carter said. "But more importantly, some are listening." Claire was transferred back to general population a week later. When she returned to her block, every woman stopped and stared. Then one by one, they clapped. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a riot. It was respect. Lena met her by the stairwell. "You really did it," she said quietly. "You made them listen." Claire hugged her. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Damn right," Lena muttered, but her eyes were wet. BA stepped forward. "We heard the senator is coming. He's bringing a commission. And they're reviewing past cases," Tara added. "They're reopening some." Claire sat down, overwhelmed. Izzy ran up to her. "They want me to testify. About the guard who hurt me. I'm scared." Claire reached for her hands. "I'll help you. Every step of the way." Izzy nodded, holding back tears. Claire turned to the others. "We're not done yet. They think this was the end. But it's just the beginning." Lena smirked. "You sure you weren't born in fire?" Claire looked around the room, at the women who once felt invisible and now stood tall. She smiled. "I wasn't born in fire," she said. "But I rose from the ashes." 2 weeks after the story of Crestwood exploded in the media, everything changed. The walls still looked the same. The food was still bad. The guards still barked. But now, cameras were watching. People were asking questions. And most importantly, officials were finally listening. Claire stood in the warden's office again, but this time, she wasn't alone. A state senator named Elijah Grant sat across the desk. He was in his 50s, African American, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense voice. 2 legal advisors sat beside him, holding thick folders. "We've reviewed the report," Senator Grant said, tapping the files. "We've confirmed multiple violations. Neglect, abuse, corruption. You ladies blew the lid off this place." Claire kept her hands folded. "It wasn't just me. The women here are brave. I only helped tell their stories." Grant nodded. "And we need you to do more." Claire raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "We're opening a public hearing. We want witnesses. Real voices. From the inside. You're at the top of the list." Claire's heart began to pound. "I've been fighting to survive for months," she said softly. "And now, you want me to stand in front of the world again?" "Yes," Grant said. "Because your voice is strong. And there are thousands of others still locked up who need someone to open that door." Claire looked out the window. She could see the yard, dozens of women walking slowly in the morning sun, heads bowed, shoulders heavy. She turned back. "I'll do it." The next week was a blur. Claire worked with Carter and the senator's legal team to organize statements. She sat with inmates for hours, helping them write their stories in ways that could be read aloud. She trained Izzy, BEA, Tara, and even Lena on how to testify with confidence. One night, Claire found Lena pacing in their cell. You sure about this? Lena asked. You want me on the stand? You've seen more than anyone here, Claire said. You've survived the worst. And you're the strongest woman I know. Lena chuckled dryly. That's not saying much in this place. Yes, it is, Claire replied. You matter. Lena didn't respond at first. Then she sighed. You're turning this hellhole into a war room. Claire smiled. Not a war room. A courtroom. The day of the hearing, the women were escorted to a secured building outside the prison. The courtroom was filled with journalists, lawmakers, and observers. Claire sat at the front, beside Carter and Senator Grant. Her hands trembled slightly, but she held her chin high. The judge entered. Then, one by one, the women of Crestwood spoke. Izzy testified first. Her voice was soft, but steady. I was just a kid, she said. No lawyer, no support. I defended myself, and they locked me away. I was assaulted in prison. I begged for help. They punished me for crying. Gasps echoed across the room. BA went next. I've been in here for over a decade. My public defender barely knew my name. I never hurt anyone. But the system chewed me up and left me here to rot. Then Tara. Then Shauna. And finally, Lena. She walked up to the podium like a warrior. Her prison tattoos were visible beneath her rolled-up sleeves. She didn't blink. I stabbed a man who was killing me slowly, she began. And I've spent the last 18 years in here learning how to survive. I've seen women beaten, starved, left in blooded cells. We're not just inmates. We're human beings. There was total silence. Then the judge called Claire to the stand. She took a deep breath. I was a lawyer, she began. I believed in justice. I thought I understood the law. Until the law turned its back on me. She told them everything, her arrest, her trial, her betrayal, her daughter's death, and what she had witnessed inside Crestwood. But prison didn't break me, she said, her voice cracking. It introduced me to women who had been silenced for years. And through them, I found my voice again. Not as a lawyer. Not as a victim. But as a woman who refuses to be erased. When she finished, the entire room stood in quiet applause. Tears ran down Claire's face. Not from fear or pain, but from power. 3 months passed. Claire sat outside on a wooden bench in the small courtyard of Crestwood. The yard had changed. The guards were quieter. The abuse had slowed. A review board had been established to re-evaluate cases and implement reforms. The prison was still a cage, but it no longer felt like a coffin. Claire opened a letter in her lap. It was from the Innocence Project. They had reviewed her case and, with Carter's evidence and Marcus's confession, they were filing for a retrial. She might actually go home. Home. She wasn't sure what that even meant anymore. Lena walked over and handed her a tin mug of lukewarm coffee. You get good news? She asked. Claire nodded. They're calling for my release. Lena stared into the distance. You deserve it. Claire looked at her. So do you. Lena shrugged. I'll probably die in this place. No, Claire said. You saved lives. You led us through this. I'm going to fight for you now. Lena didn't respond, but her eyes shimmered with something Claire hadn't seen before. Hope. A month later, Claire Montgomery walked out of Crestwood. A small crowd waited outside. Carter, Senator Grant, reporters, and her old law school friend, Helena, who held up a sign that said, Welcome back, fighter. Claire stepped into the sunlight, blinking. She took a deep breath. The air smelled like trees, grass, and something else. Freedom. As she walked down the steps, someone handed her a microphone. What will you do now, Ms. Montgomery? A reporter asked. Claire looked out across the cameras. I'm going to rebuild, she said. I'm going to fight for every woman still behind those walls. I'm going to turn my pain into purpose. Another reporter called out, "Are you angry about what was done to you?" Claire paused. Then she smiled. "No. I'm not angry. I'm alive. I'm grateful. Because sometimes, you have to be burned down to ash to rise again." She turned and embraced Helena. Then Carter. Then, quietly, she walked to the end of the street, where a little memorial stone had been placed for her daughter, Ava. She knelt beside it and placed a white lily on the ground. "I'm free now, baby," she whispered. "And I promise, I'll make you proud." 2 years later, Claire stood at a podium in a large auditorium filled with students, judges, former inmates, and families. Behind her was a large banner, the Ava Montgomery Foundation for Prison Reform. She looked over the crowd and began her speech. "Once upon a time, I was locked away, silenced, forgotten. But through the darkness, I met women who reminded me what courage looks like." She smiled. "This foundation is for them. For the voices still trapped behind steel doors. For the girls growing up in a world that needs more justice. And for the daughter I lost, whose spirit still walks beside me." Thunderous applause filled the room. In the front row, Lena sat in a tailored blazer, free and proud, wiping a tear from her eye. B.A., Tara, Izzy, and Shauna sat beside her. They had risen too. Because one woman refused to be broken. Because the ashes didn't bury her. They made her rise. If this story moved you, don't just scroll past. Like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who believes in second chances. Drop a comment below. What would you do if the system failed you like it did Claire? And if you want more stories of survival, courage, and transformation, hit that bell icon so you never miss a chapter.